All righty, so I will give it a few minutes to allow people to join, and then I will give an introduction of everyone. Okay, so let's begin. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the OPAT Commission community meeting. I want to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Everett. I am the Executive Director of the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. But before we get started, I want to go over a few housekeeping matters with you. First of all, this meeting is being recorded. For all members of the public, your cameras are turned off. But before we do officially go over, I want to have an opportunity for our language services to introduce themselves. So we're going to start by providing everyone with an opportunity to make sure that they can understand this meeting and participate fully in a language that they are most comfortable with. So if we can start with ASL, and we can introduce yourself. Spanish. I'm sorry, go on. Sorry, ASL, sorry.
You have two interpreters. There's Lucy, who is visible, and Sharon, who we will be switching and will be on the main screen. Thank you.
Thank you. Spanish.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erika Perez, and we have Gabriela Herrera, who will be providing simultaneous interpretation. And now I'll say this in Spanish. Buenos días, mi nombre es Erika Pérez y vamos a estar con Gabriela Herrera interpretando del inglés al español simultáneamente. En unos segundos, cuando van a activar la interpretación, va a aparecer un pequeño globo en la parte de abajo, es un icono. Por favor, presione allí y escoja español, porque van a haber varios idiomas. Y listo, si está usando el celular, hay 3 puntitos. Busque interpretación de idiomas, escoja español y asegúrese finalizado. All set, thank you.
Thank you. Mandarin?
Thank you, Chair Ms. Everett. 那么各位好，我是您的普通话翻译。So my name is Tina Zhao, and Terry Yin, and I will be the Mandarin interpreter today. 我们一会儿会有2个同声传译的翻译 ，Terry 和我会半个小时或者40分钟一换。然后最后这个问答题的环节的时候，请您呢注意，您可能要就是变成是你讲了之后，然后停下来让 Terry 或者是我给你翻译完之后你再讲。所以最开始的问答题之前是您同声的会听到我们的翻译，问答题的时候改成是交互的来讲话。那么一会儿他们开启了这个翻译功能之后，您选择地球仪上的普通话的这个频道，然后进入到我们的这个频道之后，你会听到或者是我或者是 Terry 为您服务。如果您是用这个手机或者平板上线，你会看到你屏幕的右下角有3个点，然后你点击这个3个点之后，等着我和这个 Terry 来给您翻译。那祝您今天的会议愉快，多保重。Thank you.
Hi,
Thank
this
you.
is Mihan Jae and Yuen Ju for the Vietnamese interpretation. I will be switching off and forth. Cho cộng đồng người Việt, tôi tên là Mỹ Hạnh và cô Duyên Chiều sẽ là người thông dịch viên ngày hôm nay. Nếu quý vị cần nghe được cái đài thông dịch này thì xin tìm cái thanh ở phía dưới màn hình của quý vị và bấm vô cái chỗ interpretation nha. Dạ cảm ơn.
Thank you. Haitian Creole?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Cynthia, and I'll be with Sadak doing the interpretation for Haitian Creole today. I'm gonna do the introduction. Pour interprétation créole haïtien, allez dans contrôle bas, dans partie en bas écran, et puis cliquez sur interprétation. Après ça, cliquez sur langue que vous avez entendu. Kounye a gain accès à réunion en créole haïtien. Thank you.
Thank you. Cantonese?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Anna. Sandra and I will be providing Cantonese interpretation for the meeting today. 大家早晨，我 Anna。今天呢，我同 Sandra 會為你提供同聲嘅廣東話翻譯。陣間你見到地球嘅時候咧，撳落去咧，揀廣東話，咁就去到 Cantonese， 咁就去到同聲嘅翻譯嘅頻道噶啦。用手機嘅話咧，撳嗰3個點，再揀更多，再揀 Cantonese， 咁亦都去到廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶咯。想提醒大家，如果陣間你想俾聽證嘅時候咧，請講慢一點，我哋咧會同聲咧為你翻譯嘅喎。OK， 唔該晒，一陣間見。Thank you so much. Back to you, Stephanie.
Great, thank you. And so we've also turned on the auto captioning, so each person will need to opt in to see these captions. So you select live transcript button on the toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom screen to see these captions appear. And the OPAT staff will also send those instructions inside of the chat. And then also, if you need the interpretation services button, these languages, please make sure that you select the interpretation service button at the bottom of your screen as well to select the language channel that, again, that you will need in order to make sure that you are fully participating in today's community meeting. So again, welcome. I also want to introduce right now my commissioners who are here with me today. So the Honorable Leslie Harris, who is also chair of the IOP Internal Affairs Oversight Panel, and Commissioner Peter Alvarez, who also serves as the chair of the Surveillance Review Board, also known as CRB. So what I want to jump right into is going over what today's agenda looks like. We will do an introduction, which I just did, the approval of our April 19th meeting. I do want to note so that everyone understands how our meetings work. We by ordinance meet 4 times a year, as do the other 2 boards that my commissioners chair. So what we do at OPAT staff is that we post draft minutes online. And then when we get back together, we finalize these minutes, just so if there's any discussion that we have the discussion, but we do want to have an opportunity for the public to not have to wait until we get back together to see these minutes. So we did meet a couple of months ago. So I want an opportunity for my fellow commissioners, if you have any questions about the April 19th minutes, and if not, we can get a motion to approve the minutes of April 19th.
No question.
Commissioner Harris?
I was on mute. No questions, and I move that we accept the minutes.
Seconded.
Okay, so the April 19 minutes have been accepted and approved. Thank you. So next we're going to move into the OPAT Commission public report. That report will also be posted in our chat and put online when this meeting adjourns today. The public report is also something that is mandated by the ordinance that created the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency. The OPAT Commission, again, is comprised of the 3 commissioners. We come together to give you information on what we have been doing as staff, as well as what the 2 boards have been doing, and let you know what has been going on here and give you some updates all around. And so one of the things that, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, you can see the report when it gets posted, but I wanted to give you some highlights of this report. As been noted, and it's still ongoing, we have the FY23 budget that has come out. So the mayor offered a budget as the new charter was changed last year. City Council now has been able to offer their budget, and then the mayor, as of yesterday, gave back a budget. So their budget passed on, so the final budget will need to be voted on June 29th. So as far as OPAT's budget is concerned, we saw an increase of $165,000 comparative to last year, FY22's budget. And that was because we looked for 3 new investments. Those 3 new investments were, 1, a community mediator, a new full-time position in our office. And that comes really from the ordinance. The ordinance did call for one of the directions of when we do get complaints here at OPAT to see if we can get the police officer and the complainant to come together as a different avenue rather than a full complaint or going before the CRB, and try to get them to resolve their matter with a mediator. So this is the position that we asked to have funded. So that is currently pending in the FY23 budget. We also, as part of the budget process, part of the ordinance, we have to report every semi-annually on the hiring, promotion, and retention of BIPOC officers and BPD. And doing the first semi-annual report in last December, we realized that while we can get this data from BPD and just report on it, I am of the mindset that reporting data without any process, and if you heard me at any of these meetings, have heard me speak anywhere else, I'm all about procedures and solutions. And so I thought it was really important that we look into not just what the data is telling, not just look at the data, but look at what the data is telling us and where BPD could do better in the promotion, hiring, retention of BIPOC officers. So we sought money for a consultant to look at that and see ways that we can strengthen the relationship of hiring, retention, and promotion of BIPOC officers. So we have that as one of the second key investments that we looked at. And lastly, looking at a year-long paid internship. Everyone heard, if you heard me talking, I get very excited about this, for high school and college students in OPAT. So this is not something that's in the ordinance. This is not something someone asks us to do. This is something that I believe that we need to do to have a continuous ongoing relationship and conversation with the youth in Boston about police reforms, so that we are constantly involving our youth in our conversations about how they feel their relationship with the police are doing. Our work is going to be centered around trust building in the community. And we need to make sure that you stay centered and focused in this. So it is a paid internship. High school students are getting paid more than a minimum. So they are getting paid $18 an hour, and college students will be getting paid $22 an hour. So we're looking forward to that. We actually, this summer, will be starting the program with the having some high school students start, because we have summer youth programs, summer youth starting through YE, starting next week, the week after, the 27th. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm trying to stall and giving you too much information because we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But we will have some kids that come in this summer. So I'm very excited. So that's where the investments for $165,000 comes in at. The next thing I do want to talk about is the Post Commission. And I know not in April, I think in the meeting we had before that, we talked about the 90 days that the Post was proposing for their investigations. So I do want to pause and have a little bit more conversation to let you all know. I think I did mention this in April, but they did vote on this. And the regulation did pass that 90 days was the time frame that was given for law enforcement bodies, and including ourselves, to actually complete investigations. So from the time that a complaint comes in to the time that it's complete, it's 90 days. I immediately, after they passed this, sent an email to the executive director about this and explained to them the process in which we, by ordinance, have to go through, including, having a complainant who may email, who may call, leave a message, who, could mail in their complaint that requires follow-up, and the process of having a civilian review board look at every complaint, make a recommendation, and then send it over to the police commissioner. There's 90 days just is not sufficient enough. They understood that and agreed that we needed more time. We can ask for every time. We could ask for more time, but I explained that it means every time we get a complaint, immediately we're going to ask you for more time, because the CRB only meets 4 times a year. So we're working with CRB about extending that time and a Boston carve out, but we have not gotten anything back from them, but they did indicate that they did not believe that it was unreasonable that we have more time as a standard because of the civilian review board meeting 4 times a year and the way the ordinance is written. But I did want to let you know that I did have a conversation. I think it was within days of them passing their regulation.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about, would it be possible for the investigation piece to be, for the investigation part to be done? I mean, I think, as you had mentioned, CRB meets 4 times a year. So it's kind of just depends on when that investigation's concluded, that when it goes to CRB. I was thinking like maybe bifurcating it in that way, where it's not like CRB rendering some recommendation, but at least the completion of the investigation itself, right? Where I don't know if that, if we thought of it that way too, because I mean, obviously where CRB is only 4 times a year, it just probably won't be possible unless the timing just works out exactly. You got the complaint like right after the last CRB meeting, and it will be, decided on at the next one. And that's assuming the CRB doesn't, hold it for the next meeting, or, I don't know if it could be kind of based on just like the investigation itself being complete by OPAT versus like a recommendation as well, and then it going to the commissioner.
Yes, so the way the regulation is written is the whole thing is just resolved in that 90 days. And that's the biggest issue. I mean, the way that we envision and when we are we're drafting up our own internal structure and manuals. It was more like 45 days for the intake itself. Not that we need 45 days, but when we had our meeting about incomplete complaints, right? So we struggle with how we get through a complainant who may have sent us, and we've had this happen, they will call and say they send something through our online format, and we reach out back to them. And the timing of just trying to get them back on the phone could be 2-3 weeks. And then we have to make sure that, as you know, we've had this happen in the first CRB meeting, on May 10th, when we had something that was out of scope, but you have to do so much work to determine that it's out of scope. And once you find out that it's out of scope, you then have to put it before. So it can be shorter, right? Because that was a shorter one. However, we have some that are just ongoing because people travel, their work schedules. Just incomplete itself cannot be, it's incomplete because the person doesn't want to participate. I think for us, we're just struggling with how do we not make something, we don't want to rush through it. We don't want to make a complainant feel like if you don't give us an answer in 10, 15 days that you really want to complete this, we're going to have to close this because there's no way we're going to meet this deadline. So we're not asking for a substantial amount of time to be extended on to 90 days. We're still going to be underneath the same amount of rush to get work done. And I don't think it's going to just be specific to OPAT. I think that there is going to be a further conversation that they need to have about just truly understanding that complainants themselves are not always available to follow through on giving you all the information, or witnesses being available. So we'll have to figure all of that out. I don't have a real answer for you at this time, but I do think that 90 days just for the investigative piece, if we got everything from the complainant in a short period of time, or say if they gave us everything on day one and we spoke to them, we got everything we needed, we find out that it's in scope, and we move it over to an investigative side, there's a chance we could get all that investigative piece done in 90 days. But it still would not, it would still require us to seek permission from, well, it wouldn't even, it's not us who are seeking permission. We would have to let BPD know, and Boston Police Department, who then would have to send it up to the post, because we are not underneath the legislature. We are not a law enforcement body. Nor do we want to be. So we are not technically reporting to post, but we are in some ways. And so we are trying to figure out the nuances of our existence and our requirements to the Post Commission.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because it feels like it would be really burdensome to have like on each complaint, you know, if we have to go through the whole thing and keep asking for extensions. I was just trying to think of a way that, like, for some limited number of cases that move fast and, you know, the complainant and everything is available, at least for those, we wouldn't have to. And I think if we just like carved out the rendering of a recommendation from it being complete, maybe that would at least get half or some number of them wouldn't need that additional, you know, kind of consent or waiver of that requirement. Whereas, you know, I would imagine that a good number still will, but just wanted to see if there was a way to make it so that a chunk do not, just because it feels like they voted on it and we, you know, OPAT was in communication with them. And I'm sure it's not just OPAT that has this issue. There's probably other community, you know, civilian review boards and organizations that also are probably have the same issue, but you know, just trying to think of ways to at least let some of our investigations kind of like fall within that time frame if there were carve outs for the recommendation part.
Yeah, I know. So I know more familiar with Cambridge. Cambridge uses the Cambridge Police Department to do the investigatory work on civilian review board, on their civilian review board work. So they would still be using, they would just be using post. We are uniquely situated. So it is something that we are still working with the Post Commission to figure out. How do we do reporting? We, by ordinance, when we do get complaints, in addition to posting it on our website, we inform BPD of these complaints. And because we are informing BPD of the complaints that we receive, BPD then sends them up to the Post Commission, but they themselves are not investigating them. But it does put Internal Affairs on alert that this complaint has been received before this officer around this issue. So it doesn't preclude BPD from starting their own complaint investigation, but it does let them know that this is going on. So Post Commission is alerted about all of our complaints through BPD.
And just one question, if it doesn't, like, let's say, I know we're in conversation, so that's good, but what's the consequence, or is there none? It's just trying to figure out what would be, like, what's the consequence, for lack of a better word, if it's not done on time.
So by statute, you actually have a year to complete an investigation. I think the 90-day rule is just to give Post a heads up. I don't really have an explanation on what why they reduced it to 90 days. I think in the year, Post Commission now has the statutory authority to come in and take over a case if they wanted to, because the case has been stalled for a year. However, that's as far as I know. I think they're still creating their regs around this. So I don't know if there's any fines or penalties that they will add on to it. I haven't seen any that are attached to it, but we by statute don't qualify as a law enforcement body. So we would not face those things, but we don't want to. What we have been doing for our own accountability is following the same mandates that have been placed on BPD. And so if they tell BPD they have 90 days to complete an investigation, we have taken this position that we have 90 days to complete an investigation. Commissioner Judge Harris, do you have any thoughts?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
So the other thing the Post Commission is in the process of doing right now is recertifying police officers. So with the passage of their state reforms around police, they also, Post Commission was created to also certify police officers. So now they have to be certified to be police officers. They started with A through H. And in that process, they are splitting it out. There's a questionnaire and an attestation, I don't know if I'm saying that right, that they're requiring officers to fill out, and their superiors, in our case, it would be a commissioner, and it includes an interview and the like. So I believe there's 932 A through H of Boston police officers that need to go through this process. Now, there was a similar process that was used earlier this year for officers who were in the new recruit class, who are in police academies. They're supposed to be, in the ordinance, it says they're supposed to go before the Post Commission and have this interview done and the like, but they just don't have the capacity built up yet because they're a new organization to do this. So that's why there is a questionnaire and attestation that they're putting onto the law enforcement departments themselves to do. This has been causing quite some stir amongst the law enforcement world across the state. As of last week, BPD had not turned in any of the questionnaires or attestations because there's 932. And I don't know if they're going to meet their deadlines. I believe that they have to all be in shortly, but I don't know that, and I don't want to, they're all due by tomorrow, and I don't think that they will meet that deadline.
Will we have access to see what the questionnaire looks like?
It's online. It's all on the post. It's all online. The questionnaire attestation have been posted online. They're very transparent about what they're asking. And I think the biggest issue is that everyone has to be interviewed. There is a process that they are allowing, and what the Post Commission has been doing, because it's been so contentious, is that they've been meeting almost weekly. They have been meeting weekly in the last couple of weeks. So they have established a way that you can ask for an extension or of time. And so I'm almost certain BPD will be asking for that extension of time. But they are working toward getting these things done, is what I was told last week. I did inquire to see if they were going to meet that goal. And as of last Wednesday, like a week ago, tomorrow, they were not going to meet that goal. And I think they're one of the biggest ones because Boston has some of the biggest, obviously as a municipality, A through H is 932. So they can do conditional certification. There's all these things that they voted to amend last week, just because it's been a daunting task on a lot of the municipalities to get this work done. But I did want to highlight that for the commissioners, so that you did know that that deadline is tomorrow, and then Boston would most likely not be able to make that date. So any questions on that? And once they are done, all this stuff will be online and available and on the Post Commission. Post Commission's website is full of a lot of information. If you do want to attend their hearings or public meetings, they do have a sign up. They'll send you an email for you to participate in listening to their hearings or meetings. Stop saying hearings, their meetings. And a lot of people do attend. They ask great questions and they provide good information on what's going on. And we do have Larry Calderon as a commissioner, who is the head of the Patrolmen's Union, and Larry Ellison, who also sits on the Boston Police Department. So we do have two commissioners from Boston Police Department serving on the Post Commission. And our office is on at all times. So if anyone wants feedback on those meetings, you can always call myself or someone in our staff to give a quick update of what happened. So now I'm going to go into some more updates that are also required by ordinance from that we report out. So these will just be read directly. So some activities for our quarter. This is what our website looks like. So if you ever go on our website, it's pretty good at looking at what our complaints look like. We do update at the end of the month all the complaints, demographics on our dashboard, where they are located, the demographics of the complainant, if given to us. It's not required if someone declines. We do not ask for it. You will see that if there is any discipline, once we start disposing of cases and recommendations of discipline come in from the Civilian Review Board, that would also be listed up here as well. If you click on some of the cases, you'll see general information about the cases. And then once we get to disposition, you'll be able to see what those dispositions will look like too. And that's on boston.gov/OPAT. So as our second quarter activity, so that's April through June, we've had one case go into the Civilian Review Board, and that was ruled as out of scope. And in that case, we just needed to help identify a different city department, which our staff did to help answer a question for someone. We've had no dispositions that were referred to, any cases, no cases referred right now to the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. We've had no disciplinary actions referred to the commissioner in this quarter. And so the number of complaints received, the type of misconduct alleged, and the investigatory type of statuses. So we received 9 complaints in the second quarter. 2 were on racial profiling, 1 alleged unlawful detention, 2 alleged disrespectful interactions, 1 alleged unresponsive regarding an investigation, and 2 issues were regarding the Brick Gang database, and 1 is a miscellaneous / out of scope. So we will report on all cases that come in, even if they are out of scope. We're just going to report on everything that comes in. All these cases are currently in the pending status, so they have not been heard before the CRB as of yet. The demographics of the complainants, we've had they were 1 Asian, 1 Cape Verdean, 1 white, 2 Latino, and 4 complainants declined to answer. 2 complainants were between the ages of 18 and 24. 1 complainant was between the ages of 36 and 39, and 6 complainants decided not to disclose. 5 complainants were identified as male, 1 complainant identified as female, and 3 complainants declined to answer. 3 complainants identified as straight heterosexual, and 6 complainants declined to answer. So going forward, we have done a lot of work in the last year. So I've had my 1-year anniversary as the executive director of the Office of Police Accountability last month, and really did some reflective work on what we've done in that 1 year. And it's been some great foundational building, having staff, having a building here in Nubian Square, and having a fully seated boards, and really getting the foundational work done and still building on that foundational work. And one of the things that has continuously come up is, who are we, what do we do, and who do we serve? And so I'm looking at going forward in year 2 as in really getting to know OPAT, moving beyond the marches, what work needs to be done, the policy really being put into practice. And so that's where we're moving ahead to this summer. Bringing in those 2 youth is really, again, looking at how do we keep those voices coming. The youth were very instrumental in the creation across the nation of offices similar to OPAT, of organizing marches, of organizing around policy, to have these continuous conversations. And we want to make sure that we keep elevating their voices as we continuously do this work, and we keep them engaged. On the Civilian Review Board, there is 1 youth voice on that board, but I thought it was very important that we continuously engage our youth in high school, and also teach them the foundations of how do we engage them, but give them the tools so that when they get older, they continue to do this work. So starting with that, we will have youth coming this summer. They will start to develop a youth advisory council, as my deputy John has nicely tagged them as YAC. So they will develop the skills on how to have a board foundation from the beginning to the end. And I'm excited to have them here. I'm excited that they are members of our community, and they won't just do regular filing in our office. Like some people will say, I'm going to have kids in for the summer. These kids really need to be engaged. Every time I see someone in the community, I'm like, you got to come in. We want to have speakers in every week. We want to make sure that they know who's in our community, what they can offer, and really build this program up that is going to make sure that the youth have a voice here in this office, and that the work leaves this building through different channels. So we will be doing that with our youth. We will be doing a get to know OPAT. We have attended programs in the city with the mayor's coffee hours. So our staff is doing that, myself, really getting out to meet the community, let them know where we are located, how we can help, and how we can engage. So we'll continue to do that throughout the summer, throughout the year, and it'll be continuous. And we will also keep expanding on our website and really trying to find different ways that we can get people to know who we are, where we exist at, and different ways we can partner with different organizations within City of Boston, outside of City of Boston, so that people know that everything that they've been thinking about and working on, they can continue to do with our office as their partner. So with that said, I believe, let me just make sure, that may be all that I have. Lastly, because we are in Nubian Square and we are a storefront location, you can just walk in. We are working to get some things set up, but by beginning like the first week or so in July, we will be distributing COVID-19 take-home tests. So we want to be a partner in our community and keep our community safe. So we will start being able to distribute COVID tests as well. Just pass them out, not actually give you the test, but just be able to pass those out for those who need it. And we know that Roxbury was one of the communities that were hit hard, and we want, again, to be a positive contributing partner and good community friend while we are here in Nubian for the long run. And that's what I have, and I will open it up for the commissioners if you have anything else you want to add.
I have one thing I was going to ask about. As we're trying to educate the community, is it possible to have a small printed pamphlet that explains the duties and limitations and all of OPAT?
I will let one of the staff put up. We have one. We have handouts now. We do have one. We developed one, so we've been leaving those at the coffee hours.
Oh, good. Okay.
So Ben, you want to change the screen and probably share the get to know OPAT flyer. So we have one that we're sharing here. We're gonna do a more in-depth one we're trying to come up with multiple ones, but we had it sent out so that we have it in different languages. We are really trying to make sure that we are engaging in all areas. Commissioner Alvarez.
I think that's a great idea, and the fact that you all are doing it, happy that that's happening. I think the mayor's office sometimes sends out like blasts or emails or like a newsletter type thing. It might be good there as well, just like to keep people, kind of notified on what's happening and, like kind of the duties of each. And but it's good that the pamphlets exist.
Yeah, we thought it was really important.
And we might want to put them in.
Go on.
I think Judge may be frozen or.
Not me. Somebody else was speaking and I just stopped. I was going to say it might be a good thing to put them in some of the local churches and businesses, so that the community, that we reach as many people in the community as possible.
Yes.
And even in the banner.
That's a good idea. So I'm trying to get this flyer to go up on the screen. I know they just shared it, but I want to just put it up on the screen. So I'm going to think we're just trying to get this to come out for a second. So this is what it looks like, the Get to Know OPAT flyer. It just says what we do. It talks about our 3 different boards that we have. The biggest thing is really talking, a lot of people talked about the subpoena power in the beginning. Just to let everybody know where the subpoena power lives, and it doesn't live in it. One of the misconceptions that people have is that the CRB has subpoena power. So I always try to tell people where the subpoena power lives. And so there's the commission, the CRB, and the internal affairs. So really just putting that out. You all can keep scrolling. So we did this, just where do you file complaints, where you can come in at to get it, and where you can find out more information. So we tell them they can come meet us at one of our meetings or come into the office or call us. So it's as basic as it can be for this one. And then we have a more extensive one that we're working on. We had another one. So when you do just for your information, Judge, there is, whenever, as you know, when there's a appeal of an IAD, Internal Affairs decision, the appeal comes to the Internal Affairs Oversight Panel. So there used to be a flyer of sorts, or a pamphlet that BPD would send with that was a co-op, the former board that was IOP. And so we needed to update it. So we updated it with some of this information, but more information about the Internal Oversight Panel and what you all do. So this is the second version. So this is a more pared down version, because we give these out at the coffee hour. People aren't going to read so much wordy stuff at a coffee hour. They're just going to quickly who are you? It's something that they can see and scan. And then we'll do, but this is something that's really good just to leave out quickly. Who are you? What do you do? And how do I get more information? We need to do a more in-depth one that we can have more, that's more than, a back and front page that gives out more details, and that's why we're doing a manual as well. So there's a lot of information, but this is something we're proud of. It took us a lot of time to condense it, because you want to brag about everything you're doing. We do so much, but trying to get it down to one line is very, very hard when you want to say all the great work that everyone does. But it's really a good thing. So this is the you can take this off the screen if you all want. We can go back to the agenda, and I will, I believe this is where I end, and as we talked about, this is a community meeting. So we are charged with giving you out information, public, and letting you absorb. And then in our public comment period, we as commissioners sit back and let you tell us how you feel you are receiving our information, as well as what you would like to see us do. It is not necessarily a back and forth conversation. It is really a public comment period of, you can put your information into the chat. You can raise your hand. You can email us. If you email us, and I know there was a question about email before, so I want to talk a little bit about how emails come in. If you email us while this meeting is going, we will make sure your email gets into the chat function, so that everyone in the Zoom right now can see the email. Certain questions that are very specific and I can answer right away, I will answer for you. But not all questions I can necessarily answer, for a host of reasons. If it's a privacy issue, I'm not going to answer it. If you're asking me a question about your case, I'm not going to answer it. Those are things I just cannot answer. But a lot of this is really just to receive the information. But if you email us and it's during the time that this meeting is still going, we will put it inside of the chat so that everyone can see the question or the comment that you're putting out there. If you send us an email after this meeting closes, but before noon on Tuesday, we will also include it in the minutes that we post as a draft on Wednesday. We usually give ourselves like a week to post everything. If you send it to us after Tuesday at noon, we will read it into the meeting minutes the following community meeting. Because then there was a question just for the other commissioners about how do we have transparency of comments that come in during email that someone may, or questions that someone may, other members may want to hear in the community. So I want to make sure that we are being transparent, that these questions or comments are being shared with the community at large. And this is the best way that we can do it. And that is to make sure that before 12 on Tuesday or during this meeting, they're going to be part of the minutes. After that time, they will be read into the meeting minutes of the next OPAT Commission meeting. And I think that's the best way we can do it. Just the commissioners have anything else to add before we go into this comment period? All right. I don't see any questions in the chat right now. I will ask my staff to help me as well with identifying if any hands are raised. I know it usually jumps up on the screen, but I don't see any.
Stephanie, we do have two members of the audience with their hands raised.
Okay, so hold on, I don't see them. So let me see why I'm not seeing them. So I have to keep this other thing up. All right. So Michael Reiskin, I hope I'm saying your name right. I apologize if I'm not.
No, that's right, Michael Reiskin. I've got two questions, an easy one and a harder one. You said you had, on your complaints dashboard, you said you had 9 complaints and all were pending. None were resolved. If I remember at the community review board, there was one complaint that was found out of scope. So I thought that was resolved as being out of scope. Is that correct?
Yes, so we have one that is out of scope. So that one was received. So the ones I just read to you are from April through, hold on, let me make sure.
Okay, all right. So that,
yeah, so that
okay.
may have just been received in a different time period.
Okay, that's
okay.
fine. Okay, that's the easy one. The harder one is the Patrick Rose personnel file was released by the mayor, and it was clear that the accountability was not followed by the Boston Police Department. But I was much more troubled by the end, in which there was a lack of transparency, in which they said that there were no files on how the decision was reached or what decision was reached. So my question to you might be better for the IAOP meeting on Thursday, but is OPAT insisting on Boston Police writing in how their decisions are reached and what decisions are reached, and as well what the discipline is that is meted out? It seems to me that those files need to be done and released by the Boston Police Department. That's
okay. So any questions related, I should have said this as well. Any questions related to Patrick Rose, you will have to address with the mayor's office. I am involved in part of what's going on with Patrick Rose, but I will not be talking about that case. The files.
No, I was, yeah. Yeah,
so if you're asking me going forward,
general question for any officer.
Okay, so if you're asking me about protocol going forward,
yes.
Are you asking me about how findings come in? What we look at when findings come in?
Are you insisting that the Boston Police Department write up what decisions are made when they when they have a complaint, how the decision is made, what decision is made, and what discipline was meted out. Because the mayor's office said there were no files in the city about how the decision or what decision was made. And I thought that was a bad precedent. If that happens, they never write up anything about their decision-making capability.
Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to address the roles. I will tell you in present day, for findings that come out of the Internal Affairs Oversight panel, or present day, for findings that come out Internal Affairs. So what we will be looking at going forward, especially with the new police commissioner that is coming in, and this goes for starting with Commissioner Alvarez, we are looking for, as part of, not looking for, what we will be working with is a discipline matrix. So what you're asking about, as far as how a decision will be made about discipline, that will be a discipline matrix. And that's something that we need by ordinance for the Civilian Review Board to do their job. And that is currently something that we're still in the works of talking about, but that's like as much as I can go to right now, but I don't have any answers on roles. That's something that happened in the 90s. That is not their way today. I believe that is something that the mayor has also touched on before. I think 2 mayors have touched on that so far, but definitely this mayor has been very vocal in being transparent and looking at the way in which we can learn from this and how we look at this as we move forward with the new commissioner. So I will leave it there, and I appreciate your comment, but I'm going to move on to Anne-Marie Grant at this point.
Anne-Marie Grant, for the record. My brother was 38 years old when he was hogtied and asphyxiated by police during a mental health crisis and asphyxiated to death. The dashboard, it's my understanding, shows January to May with a total of 19 complaints received, 1 resolved. I believe the public should have notice at BPD about OPAT and that they can make their complaints there and not just with internal affairs. Is this board working with Woke Windows to facilitate data update on that site? Will your findings list how long does the commissioner have to act once you make a recommendation? And what obligations does the commissioner have once the recommendation is received? Where can the public get a copy of the discipline matrix? And if you don't have one already, how can the pending complaints move forward? Thank you.
Thank you. So no, we are not working with Woke Windows. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about your brother. No, we are not working with Woke Windows. Our website is listed on the Boston Police Department's website, so we are already linked to BPD. So you can find our information. They do tell you as an option that you can come to us. And I've heard BPD from different sources that BPD does tell you can come here verbally and online. And as far as the logistics of how long the police commissioner has, there is no statute, there's nothing in the ordinance that tells us how long they have. I believe that would be something in the warehouse of BPD.
And the discipline
I think it's a good question. As far as the matrix is concerned, we do not have a matrix as of yet. but when we do have one, it will be something that it wouldn't be a private thing. It would definitely be a public, transparent thing that you would see, especially because the Civilian Review Board would be using it. As far as how we would be resolving cases without that, we are working right now on a system. We don't have one, so without one, we can still resolve cases without that. I believe I am working on having those conversations, and I will continue to have those conversations how we move cases forward. But there are no cases that are pending right now. All the cases are still in investigation or not in investigation. They're just pending right now. I don't know if Commissioner Alvarez has a comment on that. It's your board.
No, I think we brought up a bit of the issue on the notices, and it's good to hear the update just with respect that, you know, orally folks are directing civilian complaints our way. And we did see the website as well, that on the BPD website, they direct them to us as well. So we did talk about that at the last CRB meeting, and look forward to kind of resolving some of the matrix issues as it comes, but we need a commissioner first. So looking forward to getting all that in place.
So I don't see anyone else waiting. I don't have any notices that there are any other messages coming in. So I will, again, ask that if there are any other comments or questions, you can either contact my staff at opat@boston.gov or give us a call at 617-635-4224. If you, again, make any comments before Tuesday, at noon, we will post your comments with our meeting for today. If you do it after 12 o'clock, we will just hold it over to our next community meeting. And I don't know if I have that meeting date listed out yet. We should have that date. I think we have the month, but we will get you a date. I believe it's in September of next September, and I believe we should be in person. I haven't heard that we are going to have to extend this. Does anyone have any questions about it being commissioners? Anyone have any questions about it being in person?
Looking forward to it.
Yes. So we are located at 2201 Washington Street in Roxbury. There's plenty of parking on street, and there's a lot across from us. It's a 2-hour lot. We are looking forward to having an in-person meeting, and it should be here. If not, it may be elsewhere. We are supposed to have them across the city so that we make sure that we engage as many residents of the city of Boston in our conversation. So it is good to have so many people be around and engaged in this conversation. So with that said, I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting for today.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I thank you all for being here, and this meeting is adjourned. Bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.